Good night, everyone, and welcome to the Archdiocesan Family Life Commission show on family life. And we have a really exciting show here for you tonight. Our theme is youth morality and spirituality. And as you remember, this entire year we're trying to mirror the third synod priority, which is regenerating the moral and spiritual values of our society. And tonight we're going to focus on the youth. How are they regenerating, or what hope, what olive branch could be held out to the youth in our society. Just to remind all our viewers, our mission statement that came out of the third sitting of the Synod in 2009, I'm going to read it for you. We are the people of God in Trinidad and Tobago, building a civilization of love, reconciling with God, neighbor, creation, and self through our three synod priorities. The first one was new evangelization, which we did the first year. And the second one was revitalizing Catholic culture and identity, which we've already covered and the church has covered. And now, together with the church here in Trinidad and Tobago, we are doing how we do that through regenerating the moral and spiritual values of our society. So that's our theme for today, and there's so much in this booklet that is really a guideline for the parish pastoral plans, about freedom to choose within the family, living in the world but not of the world, and all of that you'll hear in our show tonight. Formation of conscience. Now, some of these things, it would ring a bell to you because we have dedicated entire shows to some of these topics. Different expressions of moral law. So we're going to go into that. It even covers, this is the booklet, it covers natural law. We've dedicated a show to that. The family being essential to all of this, regenerating moral and spiritual values in our society through our youth. All of that we're going to cover tonight. The family being the domestic church and the first teachers of the faith, all right? And the role of the school and the role of culture. So we're going to cover all of that in 1 hour. Lorraine?
Good night, everyone. And as Natasha said, today's show is about youth morality and spirituality. And we have an exciting show for you all. We have on set with us Brother Raymond, who's originally from Maracas, and I know he served in my parish at Santa Rosa RC for a year plus. And he's now at Our Lady of Mount Carmel.
That's my parish.
In Freeport. You know, he's completed his studies in theology, and he's with us. He's graced us with his presence to help us tease out this topic today, a very sensitive and a very complicated topic that we're going to look at in detail. And what you're going to see, we met a beautiful family. It's Sherwin and Jillian and their Williams and their kids. Jillian is probably laughing. 6 of them, but when I tell you, a family with energy from my hometown to Arima. So we're going to hear their views, especially their children's views on morality and spirituality. And just to get the whole show in a framework, we're going to look first at the Youth Commission. And this commission is a commission that was formed in our Catholic Church a few years well back. And it's a very energetic and energized commission. And what we're going to hear is a definition for the Youth Commission, as well as the 3 key responsibilities. And that will put us in the framework for what we're about to discuss. And I really hope you'll enjoy it. So let's go firstly to Winston Garcia, who now heads the Youth Commission, and he will give us a definition and the 3 key responsibilities for this commission.
Who is the Youth Commission? The Youth Commission is a department within the church that is set up to look after the formation and development of youth and young adults, right? At the end result, what we're aiming at is authentic, integral human development. We want to aid parishes to be able to develop youth and young adults who are balanced people with a strong faith base, loving and serving God in our Catholic tradition. The Youth Commission, we have really 3 key responsibility areas, or KRAs, and we call Youth EFM. This is our brand of youth and young adult ministry. Youth EFM. The E stands for Encounter with Christ. The F for Formation, and the M is for Mission. And I'm sure you're going to pick up the pictures on the wall, which tells a whole story about what we're trying to achieve here at the Youth Commission.
Good evening, everyone, and it's good for me to be here this evening with you all. I want to say thanks for inviting me. As Lauren said earlier on, we are dealing tonight with youth morality and spirituality. And I borrowed a quote from Regenerating the Moral and Spiritual Values of Our Society that was prepared for our Archdiocese in Port of Spain. And it says, Christian morality is founded on following Christ. John Paul II in Veritatis Splendor said that following Christ is the essential, primordial foundation of Christian morality. He says that to follow Jesus means holding on to the very person of Jesus Christ. That for us, morality is not just simply about right and wrong, but I think it pushes us to discover the person of Jesus Christ. Because if we are to follow him, if we are to live our lives according to his principles, according to his standards, then I think it points us in the direction of a relationship with this person. Because unless there is that relationship that opens us up to him and opens him to us, his revealing himself to us, then we wouldn't clearly understand what it is he's calling us to. Because we will read everything that we read, we hear all that we hear. But I think it is within the context of that relationship that we come into a deeper appreciation for what he's asking of us. Now, at the heart of this call to follow Jesus is a call to love, you know. And when we think about this call to love, we think about Christ spreading his arms on the cross. A depth of love in honoring the will of his Father. A depth of love in his desire that we would have life. In other words, that he emptied himself for the sake of others, for the sake of his Father's will, for the sake of us that we may have life. And I think that is what, this whole call to living a moral life is all about. That it is not about me, because that is what we find in our society today. It is about me and my fulfilling my desires. But this call to living this moral life as Christians challenges us to think about the other. And I think if we look at the Ten Commandments, we would see clearly that was the purpose of the Ten Commandments. It sets the tone for us, how we are called to relate with each other, treat each other, the God that we serve, how we are called to deal with him, creation in itself, It sets these parameters within which we can operate and build firm and solid relationships, as it were. This call to love and this call to follow Christ for us is guided and directed by the mission of the church. The church's responsibility is to make disciples of all nations. And in the context of our young people today, as we heard Winston earlier, and we think about the Family Life Commission and the various groups in the Archdiocese, there is this push right now towards working with our young people at a different level. Just last night I was doing some research and I saw where there is this movement now for educating young people in terms of philosophical thinking. Because they are saying to us that a lot of our young people, they are making the wrong choices, they are making the wrong decisions, because they are not sure how to dialogue with some of the issues that they are faced with, the moral issues, the moral dilemma that they find themselves in. And therefore, the onus is on us as church and as family, the adults and community, to help shape and form the minds of our young people, to give them that sense of direction. The scripture says, teach a child when that child is young the right way, and when they grow up, they may part for a while, but eventually they will come back to it. Yeah. And I think for a long while, families have been neglecting, really, neglecting to teach and to shape and to form the lives of our young people. And that is why our young people find themselves in that kind, these kinds of dilemmas today, that they are not sure when they are faced with the various choices that are before them, which path to go, And so it is left up to the world to set the standard for them, whereas it should be the other way around.
True.
That we as church and as family should set the standard, because that is what Jesus did. He set a particular standard for us, and he expects us to live our lives according to that standard that he has set for us. And so, like I said before, it takes a coming to know this person of Jesus Christ. It takes a coming to understand his values, So like, for instance, he would say to us that, how many times will you forgive? If somebody does you wrong, are you going to forgive them once, and then when they come back again, all hell break loose? He says, no, 70 times 7, Again, the outpouring of that love, that mercy, and that compassion. Because today we live in a society where life is no longer important. The sacredness of life has been removed. And so it is easy to seek revenge, that a lot of our young people are being killed out there today. And it is easy for a young man to pull a gun and shoot another, because there isn't that sense of the sacredness of life, And again, it is, I think, because it is not being formed in their hearts and their minds and taught in the home or in the church at times, So I think we need to challenge ourselves, and as well as challenge families to come on board and to begin to shape and form the minds and the hearts of our young people. One of the things that comes into play in terms of moral value, is a moral life rather, is the whole question of free will. That when God created us, he created us with this freedom. And when we messed up life, it wasn't as if God took away this freedom from us. But he has left us with the freedom to make choices, the free will to decide. And that is why, again, this whole critical thinking comes into place. Because unless we can think an issue through and look at the various options that are facing us, the various choices that are before us, and to see which one is going to be life-giving, and to make that right choice. So this whole freedom of will needs to be, they need to be made conscious that they have the freedom to make the choices, and as well as empower them that when they make their choices, through their freedom, that they can take responsibility for the choices that they make in life. It was Bishop Fulton Sheen who said once in one of his programs, we have the freedom to own, right? So that it's okay, I can own a stereo set. But he says, we don't really have the freedom and the power to use it as we please. So that I have a stereo set here, and I could play it, yes, for me and my family to enjoy it. But the moment the volume goes up and it begins to affect the neighbors and the surroundings, there is something wrong with that, And it is the same thing in our lives, that yes, we have freedom, so this is my body, And is it because the world says, well, if it feels good, do it? I need to check, and when I make that choice to do that, how my choice in using my body as I feel like is going to affect me personally, and how is it going to affect the people that I live with, members of my family, how is it going to affect people in the community, So that young people need to recognize that, yes, I have freedom of choice, but the choices I make, I need to take responsibility for those choices.
Well, Raymond, Brother Raymond, let me just stop you there. We have a little clip of the Williams family that Lorraine had talked about, and it falls nicely where your teaching is at there, because this is the mother, Gillian, and she's talking about certain religious practices and values that she is inculcating, they're inculcating into their family. So let's just see what they say.
We try to do the daily rosary. It's difficult, I have to confess, but we put a lot of effort, and let's say maybe 8 times out of 10, we must go to Mass. I don't make any joke about Mass. They know the time, they know the drill, busy, and we have to attend. Depending on what's going on for us on a particular weekend, we may go to a different time Mass, but whatever the time, whatever is happening, we have to attend Mass. They bless themselves with holy water before they leave every morning. I bless them with holy oil every morning before they leave. We must begin the day on the correct foot. And religious practices daily. We go to all the feasts, whatever's happening in the church, Corpus Christi, Christmas, Easter, whatever is happening, we must attend. We'll be there. Like Saturday coming will be the feast of Saint Joachim and Anne. Married couples and what? Oh, Tooth Moon, get dressed, we're ready to go. Sandros is involved with the Vocations Cup, and we've had that. They've done the Divine Mercy visitation to the home. We've done that. So we try to keep abreast of what's happening in the church and get them involved. That's how we teach them home values. Yes, thank you, miss. So, religious practices. Did I cover everything? What am I missing? I think pretty much. Excuse me. The Mercy Rosary at 3 o'clock. Thank you, miss. The Mercy Rosary at 3 o'clock. We put a lot of effort into 3 o'clock. As now they're home on the holidays. When it's 3 o'clock, I try to freeze everybody. It's 5 to 3 in 5 minutes. Whatever it is you're doing, tie it up and come on. 3 o'clock, we're going to make a grand effort. That kind of thing, and of course it's always uphill battle. It's not just smooth sailing. We have our challenges, but we put our best foot forward, and we try to keep up, because that's the only way we're going to make it. We can't fall away. We just have to try and keep trying.
Gillian is so energized, and it spills out into her whole family, to be honest. And what we saw, as Raymond spoke about, her way of trying to keep her family and her children on the right way, on the right path, forming minds. And, now we're going to hear from her, Sherwin, her husband, the children's father. And as an adult, the struggles that you encounter, the daily struggles that you encounter, trying to stick on this path of morality and spirituality according to the Catholic Church. So let's listen to Sherwin right now.
There are great difficulties in being spiritual. There's the internet, there's television, there's peer pressure. As adults, we do have peer pressure from our colleagues at work. There are challenges, but in the challenges, I think there's a lot of opportunities to really express what you believe in as a Catholic. I think the first thing that one has to look at as an example one gives to others out there. For instance, I'm a married man. I have a relatively large family, and I think that, if you want to call it a sense of evangelization, or there where you have families who are one or two, here's a person who's married successfully for the last 17 years and having a very large family. And I think that itself, has a profound effect in society wherever you go. When people ask you, you're married? I said, yes. So how many children? 6. And everybody just lights up, like if I've done something wrong or something. I said, yeah, I have 6, and it's with the same wife, So I think that kind of bounces back there, I think really in terms of being a Catholic, someone, people tend to ask you, what do you believe in? And you express your faith, in a very natural way with friends and families. I think really and truly, as I said before, sometimes people say, Sherwin, where's Sherwin? Oh, he's gone to Mass, during lunchtime. If you want to find Sherwin, he's at Mass. I don't know how that, people get to know that, but I guess, it's natural that people tend to say, well, Sherwin is going to Mass, And I think that has an effect, not only on my Catholic friends, but also non-Catholic friends, saying that, we really take things seriously. I think really the challenges out there is to say, who are you and what is your identity? And my identity is that I'm a young man, I'm married, I am a Catholic, I'm proud of it, I profess it, and I live it. And I think that's really the essence of it.
Isn't that wonderful? That is really, you're talking about teaching. Brother Raymond told us about teaching, and you have to express it in your family. Right? A lot of us skirt around our children and think that they would infer what we want them to know. Well, it doesn't work like that. You actually have to say the words. You have to insist on the action. We are going to church. And as the head of the household, you have to say, we are a Catholic family. We are going to church, and make no bones about it. In 2009, Father Joseph Harris, as he then was, right, wrote an article and he talked about, and again it's in the Regenerating Moral and Spiritual Values in our society. He talked about how we let our culture shape us rather than us shaping our culture. And that's what Catholics have to do in Trinidad and Tobago now. Not be afraid to stand up and be Catholic and teach your children the Catholic morals, the Catholic values, and let it go on from generation to generation. Now we keep talking, and in teaching you have to start at the basic. What is morals? What are morals? What are values? You know, what is spirituality? What is morality? So we're going to go back to our Williams family, and they have tried to define it first, because it would be good for all of us to say we think morals, but really and truly we need to know from the families out there what they think is morality, what they think is spirituality. So let's go back to the Williams and the Williamses, and they will tell us what they think it is.
I think moral behavior really says to itself that you're doing something wrong, something that you should not be doing. I think, for instance, when you're dealing with young teenagers, especially boys, there are a lot of influences out there. Particularly, I think one of the most significant ones is the internet. You know, sometimes they may be innocently doing some research or something, and then something pops up. You know, something with some indecent pictures and movies or whatever have you. And therefore, you know, sometimes they may think to themselves, okay, I'm going to take it off. Sometimes they don't, you know, and sometimes they go further. And then as a parent, you know, we're supposed to be looking on. And sometimes you're passing and you see them doing something. I say, what is that? You know, and you catch them and that, and that. All of a sudden they try to take it off quickly, you know, but you know, it doesn't come off quickly, you know. So in those instances, you know, you have to come back and say, look, you know, this is not what we believe in. This is not tolerated in this house.
Well, personally, I believe morality is how you portray yourself to others, your standards. Because when people see you, they must see, oh, this is a child of God. I know this child loves God, and you know her actions portrays the kind of person she is. You know, she's a very loving person. She's fun to be around. That's the kind of that's what morality means to me.
I define spirituality as your connection with God, your relationship with God, something beyond the physical world that we live in, something deeper.
So we heard from, and just to clear up names, Anna Maria and Vianney, and of course their father Sherwin, talking about what they think morality and, well, I shouldn't say what they think, what they view morality and spirituality as. And you know, as we enter into an open discussion now, I think what we see coming out, I find, from the family is that they have laid a foundation.
Yes.
And they have actually chosen, which I think is the correct thing to do, to teach their children and shape their children's minds in terms of what is right, what is wrong, and even how you go about reasoning, this is right and this is wrong. You know, Sherwin speaks about you're on the internet, which is a common thing. All children have homework now to do on the internet. Things really do pop up.
Yes.
Things pop up.
So annoying.
And what do you do with that information? You know, do you indulge in it further, or do you simply press the X on the icon and let it go? And what we see in this family is that they actually have a very open approach to tell me what is going on. Let's communicate. Let me help shape your mind, because this is how it's supposed to be. So, you know, and Raymond, you have any other further thoughts on the clip?
No, I was just thinking about the freedom in myself that they experience as a family, because I think oftentimes children begin to hide when they're ashamed.
True.
And you know, I think psychologists tell us that clearly, that once you shame a person, they go into this zone, as it were, you know, and they're no longer willing to open themselves. And when you work with children with that kind of freedom, and you establish that kind of freedom from tender ages, it opens you up to a good relationship with your children, I think. And there isn't anything that they are ashamed of coming and tell you that they experience. I have some friends like that, and I know they will sit with their parents and they will discuss some boyfriend relationship right back, you know, and they don't feel anyhow because they are not going to be made to feel guilty about anything, because this forum is an open forum and we need to share, we need to know what is happening, you know. And I think that gives the children, the young people, a sense of security. Because when you are faced with some of these situations out there and you cannot come to mommy and daddy with it, you are not free to share it with them, and you keep it inside you. You know, the more we keep things in the dark, it grows and then it becomes a giant and consumes us.
Yes.
You know.
And it gives them a sense of confidence,
confidence,
to go out there
you
and
know.
proclaim what they
That's
know.
right,
You know,
yes.
this is what I do at home. No, you are wrong. You know, that type of thing.
I think the other thing that is coming out clearly, this whole sense of ritual. For me, the whole thing of the ritual is as forming habits. So that they speak about going to prayer, they have the three o'clock devotion and that kind of thing. And if it's a constant thing, what you're doing, you're really forming these positive habits in the lives of these young people, these young children. And as they grow up, it becomes a very part of the fiber of their lives, you know. So that when they find themselves, as it were, with their backs against a wall, they know right where to fall back, you know.
Their mind
But again, it's happening in the family. You cannot wait for the church to do that or the school to do it. It has to
Or
take
as some
place in
people
the
say,
family.
when the children get to 18, they'll choose.
They choose. Yes,
So you have
yes.
nothing to fall back on, all the
Exactly,
tumultuous
exactly.
teenage
And the thing
years.
is,
That's
choose
right.
from what?
Choose from
Because
what?
they don't know anything at that point in
Exactly,
time.
exactly. And a lot of our young people, they are struggling. You know, I've had the opportunity of doing some counseling, and when I hear the pain and the brokenness, the dilemmas that they are faced with, and they cannot pour their hearts out at home, they cannot share with family members. Simple choices and decisions that they were faced with, and they went about it the wrong way, costing them a whole lot later on, you know, and they live with all the regrets, you know. So that I think important for us today is really working with our families and encouraging our families to come on board again and take responsibility. You know, work with your children from that tender age. I listen to some children, like recently I was listening to a nephew of mine share, you know. I'm saying, my God, when this boy reaches about 15 or 16, he will be a wonder, you know, to deal with, because the things that he speaks about and the way he expresses himself, and I know he's in a good place to make firm choices and firm decisions, you know. Whereas, again, you would meet 18-year-old and they're not in a position to do that.
It's
you know.
true. You know, as you were talking about free will, I couldn't help but think of the gospel where the landowner built a tower, built the wine press, set everything in place,
That's
and
right.
then left for a while.
Yes.
You know, as God does to us, you know. He gives you
Yes.
everything
Yes,
there, gives
yes.
you your 10 commandments, you think, this is what you're supposed to do, this is your church, this is your family structure, and then he leaves you your space for free will to take
That's
place
right.
there.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
So how do you form that in that
And
in
then he
that
comes
space?
back looking for the fruits and it is not there.
Not there. Because
You
what
know.
did you do?
Exactly, exactly. But I think, you know, last weekend, that was actually the gospel last weekend.
Yes,
you know?
true.
And I think, like I said to some people, a lot of families, God might be saying, you know, I'm looking for the fruits in your home and I'm not seeing, I've equipped you with everything that you need, you know, and I'm not seeing the fruits. And meaning by that, I'm not seeing the lives of your children being formed as I want them to be formed, you know. I'm not seeing them growing in relationship with me, first and foremost, you know. I'm not seeing the loving and being kind and compassionate. And why? Because they're not experiencing it in their homes.
And you know, what I find, I mean, as a mother, it's not, you can't be, it's not all flowery, you know. The children say, Mommy, I don't feel to go to church, and you have to say, okay. You have to deal with that. You
That's
can't just say,
right.
well, listen, you have to go to church because I said you have to go to church. That doesn't help.
That's right.
You see? So for me, I mean, sometimes you just bring and say, you have to go to church because I say you have to go to church.
Yes,
But
yes,
I
yes.
try my best to
Yes.
say, let's look and see what God has given you this week.
Yes.
Let's look and see how God has
And what are
been
you grateful
bountiful
for?
and merciful to you this week. Yes. And then if you can do that for you Monday, I say, you got up today. I say, you know, many people didn't get up today, you know, and then he let you go to school and you went to football and you did this and you went swimming and you went, you know. So let's just go and tell him thanks for 1 little hour and a half, you know.
Yes.
And then, of course, they can't say anything to that. What do they say to that? The response of them now is normally silence. I guess they yet to formulate a response to that, but I mean,
Yeah.
and there's no response to that. So you
Yeah.
put this in context to them and you lead them along
That's
to the
right.
ritual.
That's right.
This is what we do, this is what we do as a family. Everybody comes out to Mass, and this is why we do it. You know, I think that is what children want to know. They don't want to be rebels just for rebels' sake, you know. You don't they just want somebody to answer their
To
question,
explain,
why?
yes.
If you shoot them down every time they say why, they can't understand. They say something's wrong about you. You don't come across as truthful. Because if you don't know why, so that you can't tell me why when I ask it, then you probably it's not a truthful message you're bringing me.
And the truth is, and I always say this is the reason for that gangs were formed, in that children, they always look for someone to lead and guide them.
Very true.
And if they don't find it in
At
their
home.
home, they will go outside and look for that strong
true.
authority that will say, no, do this and do that. And I will ensure that you do this and get this. And, you know, that's the formation of it. And if as parents, we really pay attention and guide our children so that they develop in themselves this willingness to want to be responsible.
Yes.
You don't even have to tell them to be responsible.
Yes.
That's
You
true.
know, once you give them, feed them
Yes.
with the right food, they will do it naturally on their own. You know, but with it comes a lot of struggles
Yes.
and challenges.
It does,
So,
you know.
yeah.
So, well, we have more from the Williamses family, the Williamses, right? The Williamses. And now we're going to hear from some other children. We're going to hear from Joseph and Emmanuel, as well as Anna Maria and Vianney, but we've met them just now. They come back again here to tell us about, from their youth perspective, what have been their challenges and their struggles. Because, you know, you always used to hate growing up sometimes, and you say, what is your little problem? But it's not my little problem. It's a big problem to me. My life might seem small. I may have lost a sharpener that somebody gave me, but that's a massive thing for me where I am there. So parents have to be careful not to say, what's your little problem? Can't tell me what your little, it's not a little problem, it's massive. You know, such a sharpener.
falling
And all I get is $1 a day, so it's a massive thing for me, you know. So let's hear from these children, the children of the Williams family, Anna Maria, Vianney, Joseph, and Emmanuel, about what their challenges and struggles are.
In school, there's a lot of peer pressure as everyone is so accustomed to, you know, your friends. Some of them drugs, you know, alcohol. You know, these things happen in schools these days. But, you know, I try my best to live the kind of life I know my parents would want me to live. Right? When there's a need to say no, I build the courage in myself. You know, try to remember, Anna Maria, you are a child of God. You know, your mom brought you up in a particular way, and you must portray yourself in that way. You know, I wouldn't want my mother to be, you know, so disappointed in me when she finds out this, that, and the next. I'm like, whew, you know. So it's a challenge sometimes, you know, to say no to others. That's one of the difficulties I face, to say no. Because I'm normally a person that say, yeah, okay, you know, I'll try, yeah, okay, no problem. So that's one of it, yeah. Well, you have to remember, everyone comes from a different background, right? So I know that not all people will understand the kind of person you are, and I know you will be judged, but there is a God, and God loves you, and really and truly that's all that matters, you know. That's one person that will never forget you. That's one person that ever leave you in your time of need, you know. He's a really true friend.
Well, on a daily basis, I try really hard to have a conversation with God, like just try to sit for a few minutes and just talk to God and try to, you know, get that connection with God, because sometimes I'm just so busy that I completely forget everything. And I think that our life should be built around God, not God around our life. And I think my parents helped me to see that in the way that they live, because every morning I see my dad up praying, and I have to get up early because I have to go to school in Port of Spain. So I have to get up early, and I see my dad sitting, praying, and my mom, she always encourages us to pray on our own, and the way she, you know, values us to come say the rosary and stuff. She doesn't take any excuse or anything like that. So I guess that's one of the things that really impacted me.
Well, I'll say mostly carnival, because that is the most pressure to start. Like everyone else jumping up, whining and thing, and you there by yourself, come so, don't do that, don't do that. And then you hear a voice in your head saying, do that, everybody else doing it, why you not doing that? And then you just give up, you just give up, and then you come say, oh gosh, I give up, I can't fight it any longer, and that kind of thing.
Some of the things that challenge my spirituality. Well, mostly peer pressure in school. Things I believe in, my friends try to encourage me in things I'm not supposed to be doing. I'd say like thieving something, hitting, fighting with someone. They will try to encourage me to do those bad things. And what I believe in, I'm not supposed to do that. Yeah.
So we heard from the children, and that was Anna Maria, then Vianney, then Joseph, then Emmanuel. And all so real. And, you know, I just want to take the opportunity once again to thank the Williams family for sharing with us so openly, because these are struggles that children go through on a daily basis. You know, he speaks about, all of them actually speak about peer pressure, basically. It's all
in
peer pressure.
In a real way, yeah?
In a real way. Joseph speaks about the carnival situation. Emmanuel speaks about the school situation in terms of fighting and stealing things. Anna Maria and Vianney speak about the peer pressure and relying on the teachings of their parents.
And seeing the example.
And seeing the examples, correct, Natasha, seeing the examples of their parents that guide them and form them to become that confident Catholic, I would say. You know, and Raymond, what do you think in terms of how, you know, this family is evolving?
Well, I think, well, we are told by the church that the family, they're the first school.
Yes.
Parents, they're the first teachers of children.
Yeah.
And I think they are taking on their responsibility. But it is something, like we said earlier on, that we are not seeing out there in our society.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason why we're experiencing that is that we have a lot of broken families. We have a lot of broken men and women who are husbands and wives, who are daddies and mommies, who would have had a history themselves. And it is out of that history that they are now seeking to be mommies and daddies, you know.
True.
And a lot of them, they would have had negative experiences in the past. And more or less, it is the same thing they are passing on to their children. And I think that is where the church comes in, that the church needs to play a greater role in terms of family life, especially, I want to use this word, rescuing families, because I know that there are a lot of families that are in trouble today because, and it's not that they don't want to, it's not that they don't want to care for their children, it's not that they don't want to have a good family, but because of the depth of brokenness and pain that a lot of people have experienced, you know, that they are finding it difficult to be true parents, you know, to mother their children properly, to be proper fathers. Many of them grew up in single parent family and that kind of thing. So there's that kind of cycle that you find, you know, and of course it is affecting the young people. And therefore, because the parents were powerless, helpless in making some proper choices and decisions in terms of how they would form and shape the lives of their children, the children themselves find themselves in that kind of place where they are really powerless. And so when they are faced with some of the dilemmas, obviously they are making the wrong choices because they have not been empowered to make correct choices.
Yes, and what you said before, they haven't. You said it comes down to, Winston said it as well, about the Youth Commission and the three responsibilities, encounter with the person of Jesus Christ. And again, that is where, the first catechist being the parents, the parents have to come in. How do you, even if the parents' role is simply to get up, if the classes at church is offering classes, if the classes in church start at 9, the parents have to get up at 8.
That's right.
Make sure everybody's out the house by 8:30 and carry you to the church.
Right.
Even if that is the role of the parent in being the first catechist, carry you to where there's the spring of living waters. You know what I mean? You carry you to the spring and say, drink drink. I know you're thirsty. I may not be able to have the words. I may not know the teachings, but I know this is where you can get it, and I'm going to ready you, and I'm going to carry you, and go there.
And I think what is important to remember is that the Catholic Church really provides institutions to provide help like this for us. And, just to talk about some of the programs the AFLC has, there's Common Sense Parenting.
Yes.
And then there are other committees such as the Divorce, Separated and Widowed.
Yes, New Beginnings.
New Beginnings. So if you come from a place of brokenness and you're really not sure of where to go to or what to do, or, all right, I'm hearing Lorraine and Natasha right now on TV, but what do I do?
And Brother Francis.
And Brother Francis, sorry about that. Pick up the phone. There are numbers running at the bottom of our screen. Pick up the phone, call the Family Life Commission, and really see if, how best they can help you move forward.
That's true. And even now in the wider church, Pope Francis has the synod of
Family
life,
Family life, yeah.
So it is really, there's a place for everybody. But I want to say that, and we have said this on this show all the time, not because you are from a single parent household does it mean that you're broken. I know a lot more broken people, right? First of all, all of us are broken in some way, right? Even if you're from a family with a mother and a father, a dog, a cat, a white picket fence, 2 windows and a door, that little perfect scene, even there's brokenness even in that, because that's just the cycle of life, you break. You break when you're exposed, you break. Now, I always say this, I am from a single parent family, and I never really heard a day of quarrel in my life. So I grew up very happy, very positive, very let's go. To the annoyance of a lot of my friends. They're like, oh my God, where do you get all that energy? So I don't know, one day of depression, and you sit on your bed, you can't face it, which sometimes in a lot of 2-parent homes there is. The mother quarreling the father, the mother saying, go and tell your father this, the father saying, go and tell your mother that. So we just want to say to you that we recognize on this show, and the AFLC recognizes that there's no perfect family, right? What you have is your family, and you go from there. As Jesus meets you, God meets you where you are, and you call the AFLC, and whatever is your situation, your reality, it might even be a neighbor taking care of an abandoned child, and that is family. And in our Trinidad context, Trinidad and Tobago, that's our context, that's fine. There's no right and wrong family, okay? In terms of that, okay? We're not advocating, we're advocating for the perfect family according to, the vision of the church, okay? But we know that the reality is far from that, and we, the AFLC meets you where you are at, okay? So we want to go and see back into the Williams, peek back into their family, and even the mother there has said, Gillian has said, that there is a lot of difficulty, and she has some techniques. So we're going to hear from Emmanuel again, which is the oldest son, and then we're going to hear also from Gillian about techniques to meet these challenges.
Well, there was this one time a boy walked up to me, just so out of the blue. I think he did it for fun, tapped me on my head. Well, I was going to beat him up, right? I started, right? But then my friend kind of pulled me back, saying, nah, leave him. So, I kind of gave in, but...
Challenges. Well, their own temperaments, huh? Each child is different, each is unique, so you have to meet each one where he or she is. So that's the beginning. And, they have their own ideas, they have their own way of doing things that they may want to, and they learn this and they learn that, and the challenge is I will have to listen to what they think concerning whatever it is. But of course, at the end of the day is what I say. You know what I mean? Because, this is how it's done here. I don't want to really know how your friends are doing it or what your friends prefer or how it's done in their house. This is what it is here, And my own daily struggle too, to be the kind of mother, to be the kind of wife. So I have to make sure to try to get me in order, organize me, fix me forever, trying to make sure I am filled up to be able to give more. So I have to do my daily prayer. I have to do my rosary. I have to make sure and attend Mass. I have to make sure and I understand what they're telling me, understand what's going on, understand what I'm hearing out there, what's going on with their friends, what's going on. So I can make informed decisions in my head before I come to them, you know. So, as I said before, forever uphill, you know, forever uphill.
So we see again the struggles from a young person or teenager that he faces, and I think what's important to learn from what Emmanuel said is that, you know, it's important to have the right people around you as well, because we are all weak and we will get weak. And he was fortunate enough that his friend was on the same path as him, and even though he was all riled up and ready to go, you know, his friend says, hold up.
Started to beat him
And
back.
started. He said, hold up. This is not how it's supposed to be, you know. And then we see the mother praying for grace to help her deal with these struggles with her children. So I think that's so important and so beautiful that, you know, we see the children going through the peer pressure, and we see the mother praying to God for the grace to help guide her flock in the right direction. And we're going to go on and we're going to hear Gillian speak about or give some advice to mothers, because she's not the only one with kids experiencing this. So she's just going to touch on a little advice to mothers. And let's hear from Gillian now.
I remember my son came to me one day. He was in first year, 5 years old. He said, "Mommy, you have a baby in your belly?" I said, "Yes, love. How you know that?" Now, and then he proceeded. He said, "My friends tell me that 5-year-olds are discussing." Now, he's 17 today, but I mean, I was flabbergasted. Well, that would make it 12 years ago. To know that this is what 5-year-olds were discussing in their class among themselves. I mean, thank God he didn't ask for any more information at that point, because I don't know how I would have survived, because I was going crazy with this little answer. But I've learned on one of the courses, of course, when the presenter had said, whatever question they ask, answer that. Don't volunteer any more information. Just answer what they ask and move along with life. I said, oh, all right. Well, that helped me then, Well,
you know, children come to you with so many things, you know. I mean, the techniques, the questions that they come with are maddening. The techniques, you always have to be thinking like 5 steps ahead, you know. I mean, it is not easy. But we're coming back to this same booklet, Regenerating Moral and Spiritual Values of Our Society. And in that booklet, it talks about, now Gillian we were fortunate really in that family, because Gillian, yes, she's a mother of 6, but she's also a school teacher. And in this booklet, it says, alongside the family, which is the domestic church, which point Brother Raymond made already, alongside family is the school, and education of the young is crucial if there is to be any regeneration of moral and spiritual values. And that is just true. You know, you have to actually say, and you know, that virtues and values program that is being taught through the catechetical programs, right, throughout the Archdiocese, it actually says there's a value called truth. Yeah. There's a value called honesty. There's a value called, and we have to do that. We have to actually say the words, say the values, inculcate what you want to come out, you know, put in what you want to come out. So we're going to go back to, before we have a little discussion, we're going to go back to the Williamses again, and we are going to hear in the school, right, youth in school from Gillian, because as I said, she is also a teacher, and she's going to give us that perspective. So we got an additional bonus. We got a lanyard, you know. So we're going to go back and hear what she says, how she deals with the youth in school.
Thank God, I teach at a Catholic school, so we say the Catholic prayers all through the day. At lunchtime, we have the Angelus, you know, during Easter, it's the Maria Regina. And I can appreciate that kind of thing, because many of the children come and they are clueless. What are we saying? But I understand that eventually they're just babbling the words, but that's all right. God's heart understands the words. So we make sure they say their prayers. We make sure they have the rosary. It's just 1 decade a day, but that's okay, better than none. 1 decade a day, so by Friday we've completed the whole rosary. by the end of standard one, I think, I want to believe everybody knows all the words clearly and they're not babbling things like in first year, 5 years old. We sing the hymns. It's May, Marian hymns, October, Marian hymns, Christmas, the carols, Lenten hymns, so we get them aware, especially the boys, because all the priests of the future come in right from Marima Boys RC School. All the next president, the next news anchor, the next pilot, all of them come in from right there. So we have the responsibility, the obligation even, to make sure they're well trained, well formed, have the knowledge and be able to pass it on. And of course, be the kind of men that we prefer them to be in the future. Because we see what's going on around us. We have to make the difference. We have to be the different parents, to have the different children who will create a different country, a different Trinidad and Tobago.
It's so great to know that our Catholic schools are doing what, Gillian says they're doing, especially, in Arima RC, boys and girls RC. And, the education system is so important, because the education system that fails to really teach their children values and and attitudes are really failing the pupil in developing into a responsible adult. So they're failing in preparing them for adult life and making again that decision of good versus bad. And it's nice to know in our RC schools, and I hope in all schools, to be honest, all primary schools in Trinidad and Tobago, that the right and correct values and principles are being taught to our children. Because it's so important. You see, at that age when you could mold and shape their minds, as Natasha said, first the parents, first catechist are the parents, then we have to rely on the school, because the children are at school most of the time. So when they leave our care, they go into the school system, and then we come back to ensure that, yes, my rules are being adhered to, that kind of thing. And that prepares them to then go on and have children and have a proper family life, Raymond, your views?
I think in light of that, some time ago, His Grace was sharing that one of the things the education system is lacking in our country is equipping our children, teaching them how to think critically. And I remember for a while he kept talking about that, and I think it's so true. Only last night I was reading this article, and it's on philosophy for children and philosophy with children. Right. Philosophy for children is where we come and we pour down their throats what you want them to do, But philosophy with children is where you engage them. That's and you get them thinking, and they begin to discuss among themselves in the classroom, and they give you a whole structure that the teachers could use themselves to pull out, questions and answers from the children themselves. And I found it a very good tool, because really that is what we need to do to help our children to be able to see a situation, to look at it squarely, to think it through, and as we said before, to make wise decisions, wise choices concerning those things. But I think what we do right now, our system is really suppressing the freedom of thought in terms of giving them that freedom to think. There is no creativity in terms of their thinking through. So that if education is to pull that forth and to help form the minds and the hearts of our children, then we need to find a way. How could we help them to begin to think these things through? To understand what we are trying to impart, and that they themselves come up with answers concerning the things that are being taught to them. And I'm sure we would have encountered it in our own families, where your children can sit down and rationally think through a particular thing and come up with the answers. And so you yourself, you don't even have to respond to them, because they have managed to think this thing through and come up with the right answer and the right choice.
That reminds me of a story, and it's not too off. One of my friends, her little daughter, she's about 3 years old, she says, "Mommy, can we put up the Christmas tree?" So Giselle Alexander says, "Well, if we put up the Christmas tree now, the neighbors will think we're crazy." And the child looks at her and says, "But Mommy, which is more important, crazy or family?" And she was stumped, she didn't even know how to respond to that. But it means in their little family that communication is taking place, creativity is taking place, and a process is happening, As simple as that story is.
True. And we must not underestimate either, like say, the children are growing up and stuff, and whatever we do at home, like Emmanuel talks about it. So when he's with his friends now? Does he have the strength? Is he that much convinced by what the church has told him, by what mommy, daddy, granny, whoever, auntie, uncle, what the family has told him, to now put it to his friends? I know, like, now that I have a teenage daughter and she's going out, you know, when she leaves the car, I say to her, Jordan, don't forget your upbringing. She's like, yes, mommy. But then I wonder, does she forget her upbringing? So you say, yes, mommy, at that point, and then so she go on, shoo. You know?
That's what she wanted to hear.
Yes. So really and truly, like what you said, Raymond, when you hear them and you hear the stories after, you know, and they say this happened in school, and my son says he went down to the principal's office and he did this, or he intervened among his friends so that they would do the right thing. And you know, when you hear that, you feel so good. You feel so good. You say, thank God, something is sticking. You know,
it's not all gone.
Something is sticking. Right? It came from the church, and the thing is, you know, it's like it. All of this being taught, but what might stick in the end is probably this much. So you have to feed the child that much for this much to stick. So if you only give this much, can you imagine how much is going to stick? None. You know what I mean? Hardly
But then
any.
we have them from the womb.
Exactly.
So we have them for the greater, well, at least until 18.
Yes.
Yes.
And if we will use those 18 years wisely and impart as much
We
as
have
we
nothing
can,
to worry
you know,
about.
Which is the role of the catechist in schools too, the non-denominational schools. So I know, I want to say, I was very impressed with San Fernando Boys RC as well. My son went there for 3 years, and they have like, one day I had to speak to Miss, and I got caught beyond the time I should have been there. Well, I was trapped for the next 45 minutes. They went on, it was like a full church service, it was a mini sermon. Like, when am I going to get a chance to talk to Miss? But I was very impressed, very impressed. Talk about Catholic formation, and then my son Aaron said that the first period of the day was religious. The first copybook to finish was religious knowledge.
Wow.
You know, not maths or English, religious knowledge, because they're doing so much. So in the non-denominational school, in non-Catholic schools, it is important for our Catholic catechists to go out there and form
really,
our Catholic mind so that they stand out in those schools as being different, as, you know. I mean, you know, can you imagine one of them like Anna Maria in a non-Catholic school with that formation from whom? I mean, she'd be a bright shining star. Any of them there, you know what I mean? They're strong about their faith. They know what they have to bring to a situation, you know?
And I think one of the things that the church needs to look at too is in terms of the teachers, because what we are realizing is that we have a lot of teachers who, well, one, not all are Catholics, right? So the children, they themselves, they are confused because sir is saying one thing, father is saying something else, mommy is saying, you know, so that in itself is a dilemma for them. So that when it comes to religious education in the school, we need to look at that and see who are the people
who are the people in the
responsible.
neighborhood?
That's what I thought of too.
Exactly. As well as we know that children learn much more from what they see as opposed to what they hear. And then we are hearing that, you know, in a lot of the schools, the teachers, their lives are not all together with it.
Yes.
And the young people, you cannot fool children.
No, they see everything.
You cannot fool young people, you know, the moment you slip with them, that's it. And so even that in itself creates part of the moral dilemma that they find themselves facing. So that the people who are expected to teach and then to form and to shape, they themselves
need an encounter with Jesus Christ.
Yes.
So that is something that we need to look at as well.
True.
You know,
I think what is important to remember from this show as well is, as Winston puts it, encounter, formation, and mission. And I think once you remember that, you're good to go.
Yes. Well, Brother Raymond, we want to thank you. Time has run out on us. We were always shocked. We have so much fun, you know. Next time we'll take calls. We want to thank you for viewing. Thank Raymond, Lorraine, and I want to say thank you very much in the AFLC. And we have a special surprise for you from the Williams family. And thanks to the Williams family. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
5 minutes surprise. Peter pay for Paul, Paul pay for all.
If something goes missing, mommy will say, I'll have a full investigation. If you don't hear, you'll feel.
Many hands make light work.
We move as a unit!
We move as a unit. Bye.